I want to ask you a question. Have you ever, in moments of silence, perceived a deep sensation that is difficult to explain? As if something very big was about to change. If you have felt this sensation at least once, listen carefully, because today we're going to talk about a truth that many prefer to ignore, but the Holy Scriptures have brought it to light several times. Stay with us until the end. The third blackout shown to our brother in the following testimony is one you will never forget. And at the end of the video, we have prepared something special for you. Do not keep this message just for yourself. Like the video and write a comment with where you're listening from. And help us reach those who are searching for answers in silence. Share the testimony. The darkness is not the end for everyone. These are the first words I remember. I do not know if I heard them while I was still up there or if I brought them with me when I returned. I only know that when I reopened my eyes in the hospital, they were already engraved inside me as if they had always been there. I will tell you what I saw. I will start with the visions because that is where everything makes sense. The accident, the before, the after, everything else is just background. The accident itself was quick. I was replacing some solar panels on the roof of an industrial warehouse outside the city. Routine work, protocols respected, clear day. An error in managing the downstream lines made a connection active that should have been isolated. I felt no pain. I did not have time to feel anything. 1 second I was on the roof, the next second I was elsewhere, above myself, looking at my motionless body and my colleagues screaming. Then the light, then Jesus, and then what I'm about to tell you. We were on a mountain. I do not know how to describe that mountain. It was not a physical place in the sense we understand it. It was an absolute vantage point from which everything could be seen. Below us stretched the United States like a living map. Every city illuminated, every highway traveled by continuous flows of vehicles. New York pulsing, Los Angeles shining in the horizon, Chicago, Houston, Miami, Seattle, millions of lights breathing together in the darkness of the night. It was beautiful, and it was about to end. Look closely, Jesus said. Tell me what you see. I observed at first everything seemed normal. Then I noticed something above the big cities, not rain clouds, but dark masses of something that did not belong to the sky. Something pressing from the top to bottom like an invisible weight. What you are about to see, he said, is the first of 3 great darknesses that will fall upon this nation. Each will last exactly 3 days and 3 nights. Each will be a test to see if my people trust me or their own machines. The first darkness began from the West Coast, like a normal blackout, like someone pouring thick ink across the sky, city after city. Los Angeles vanished first, then Las Vegas. One instant it was shining like I had never seen anything shine before. The next instant it was black as the bottom of the sea. Phoenix, Denver, Albuquerque. The darkness advanced eastward like a huge and silent wave, and it did not stop. A solar storm, Jesus said, the most powerful ever recorded in human history. The electromagnetic pulse will fry every transformer in the west of the country, from the Pacific to the Rocky Mountains. Everything will shut down at the exact same instant. I moved closer. And I mean that the vision brought me closer, as if a huge lens carried me inside the scenes. And I saw Los Angeles in detail, the exact moment it happened. 1 second the freeways were full of moving cars, the neon signs on, the downtown skyscrapers shaping the skyline in the night sky. The next second, nothing. Total silence, absolute darkness. The cars did not just turn off. Their electronic systems burned from the inside. Vehicles stuck in the middle of lanes, impossible to move, impossible to start. The freeways instantly became huge, chaotic parking lots with people climbing out of the windows into total darkness trying to understand what had happened. Traffic lights off, cell towers mute, no signal anywhere. Everything containing a microchip will be unusable, Jesus explained. Cars manufactured in the last 40 years will no longer start. Smartphones will be pieces of glass. Tablets, laptops, electronic payment systems, all burned. Even most modern flashlights because they contain electronic components. Even solar panels because their charge controllers are destroyed. I saw people walking out of highway tunnels in complete darkness, not knowing where to go. I saw downtown skyscrapers with dozens of elevators stuck between floors, people trapped in metal cages suspended in the void, without light, without a phone, without a way to call for help. I saw firefighters trying to reach buildings on foot because their vehicles were stalled. Then Jesus took me inside the hospitals, and it was there that I truly understood the gravity of what I was watching. Intensive care units where doctors tried to manually ventilate patients, one breath at a time, knowing they could not do this for hours. Dialysis centers where the machines had shut down in the middle of a session. Refrigerators with insulin and life-saving drugs starting to deteriorate in their silent darkness. Operating rooms halted in mid-surgery. Surgeons operating with their colleagues' flashlights, the old ones, the ones without chips, the ones only still working. In the first 24 hours, Jesus said, with a voice that carried all of the weight of what he was describing, the casualties will be counted in the tens of thousands, not from violence, but from the sudden failure of systems that keep the most vulnerable alive. Elderly people who depend on oxygen concentrators, newborns and incubators, people with the latest generation pacemakers, dialysis patients, diabetics without refrigerated insulin. He showed me a scene I could not stop looking at. An elderly woman in an apartment on the 14th floor of a Los Angeles condominium. Alone, no elevator, no phone, no light outside, the city completely dark for the first time in its history. Inside, silence. Then he showed me the stores. Within 6 hours of the blackout start, supermarkets had been emptied, not by thieves, by normal people, the same ones who every day went through the checkout with a debit card or phone. But the payment systems were dead. The electronic cash registers were dead. And when people realized that no one could verify anything, the gates gave way. In a few minutes, the shelves were empty. Water, canned food, batteries, candles, gone. The ATM does not work, Jesus said. The credit card does not work. The bank app does not work. Only those who have physical cash in hand can buy something. But within a few hours, there will be nothing left to buy. The second day was different from the first. On the first day, there was still hope that someone was working to restore everything, that it was a matter of hours. On the second day, that hope began to unravel. People realized that no one was coming, that there was no team of technicians somewhere resolving the problem, that this was not a temporary interruption. I saw neighborhoods in Los Angeles transformed into war zones, groups moving from building to building, fires deliberately set, not for destruction, but to have light, to signal their position, to keep others away. The National Guard trying to deploy, but without working radio communications, without operational vehicles, without central coordination. Rural areas experienced different but equally serious problems. Wells with electric pumps were dry. Modern tractors were stalled in the fields. Farm refrigerators were shut down. Farmers could neither harvest nor transport anything. And from the cities, people arrived on foot. Thousands of people walking on state highways, thinking that outside urban centers there would be food, water, help. But the countryside had nothing extra to offer. The third day, Jesus said, will be the one when reality definitely sinks in. People will understand that this will not end in a week, maybe not even in a month. And at that moment, millions of people who had not prayed for years or who had never prayed will begin to pray. But then he showed me something else. And it was the most powerful thing I saw in all of that first vision. In the middle of the darkness of Denver, a church, the doors wide open. Fires lit in the parking lot, hundreds of people sitting or standing around, teams heading out with carts of food and water toward residential neighborhoods, an old analog radio system transmitting practical information, where to find drinking water, which roads were passable, where families with small children in need of help were located, volunteer doctors examining people with basic instruments, groups going door to check on elderly people living alone. These had prepared, Jesus said, not to survive alone in a bunker, to serve. This is the difference between a survival group and my church. The former think of themselves, the latter think of others. The first darkness ended after exactly 72 hours. The toll exceeded 2 million dead, and almost no one at that moment knew that it was only the beginning. The second vision began differently. This time the darkness formed in the east during the following summer, a few months after the end of the first. It was not natural. I saw computer code spreading through American electrical systems like a silent infection. Malicious program lines inserting themselves into power plant management software, distribution grids, and critical infrastructure control systems, and simultaneously in 12 cities. Physical explosions, coordinated to the second. New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and Houston. Those are the ones I remember. Not explosions on the fringes, at the heart of the infrastructure, power plants, large substations, natural gas distribution nodes, regional internet centers, water treatment plants. Everything hit at the exact same moment across the whole country. A coordinated attack, Jesus said, cyber and physical together. The eastern 2/3 of the country will lose power, water, gas, and internet connections simultaneously. I saw Manhattan shut down, not with the slow wave of the first darkness, with a sharp snap like a flipping of a switch. Then the explosions in the industrial districts, columns of smoke rising into the summer night air, the subway stalled underground, thousands of people in tunnels without light and without air conditioning in August, station corridors becoming traps in the darkness. The difference from the first darkness was in the fear. When people realized it was a deliberate attack, the nature of the terror changed completely. It was no longer the fear of the unexpected. It was the fear of what would come next. Foreign armies, more attacks, bigger weapons. That unanswered question was more paralyzing than the darkness itself. I saw martial law declared, but the military could not communicate between units. Central commands were offline. Chains of command were broken. Army units moved without orders, trying to maintain order in cities they did not know, without digital maps, without GPS, without working digital radios. The police operated by blocks, cut off from the rest. He showed me Washington, D.C. in detail, the Capitol in the dark, the corridors of the Pentagon illuminated by emergency generators that worked only partially, government officials trying to coordinate a national response using satellite phones, the few still working, and physical messengers on bicycles like the 18th century. Then he showed me something that stayed with me more than anything else, a supermarket in Atlanta. The third day of the attack, there was nothing left on the shelves. Not just food, but everything. Toilet paper, detergents, over-the-counter medicines, baby products, people fighting over cans of cat food, a mother with 3 small children rummaging through the trash bins at the back of the store. Those who had learned nothing from the first darkness, Jesus said, found themselves exactly as before, but in a situation 3 times worse, because this time the physical damage to the infrastructure was enormous. It was not enough to restore the power. They had to physically rebuild plants that had been blown up. Recovery from the second darkness took over a year in some areas. The final toll was over 8 million dead. Then he showed me the prepared churches again. This time there were more of them. The first darkness had taught a lesson. I saw a community in Richmond, Virginia, that had transformed its church into something resembling a small autonomous town. Food and water for 2,000 people for 30 days. Propane generators, an analog radio system, medical teams with basic supplies, security teams, and the doors open to anyone, not just the members of the congregation. It is not survival, Jesus said. It is ministry. It is what my church exists for. The third vision arrived like a weight different from all the rest. Something in the light changed. It became more serious, more dense. The final darkness will be unlike anything man has ever seen, Jesus said. A solar storm 3 times more powerful than the first, hitting at the exact moment when thousands of terrorist cells simultaneously attack strategic targets in every state of the country. Not 12 cities, not one region, everything. Every major power plant, every large transformer, every critical substation destroyed or deactivated within the first hour. From Alaska to Florida, from Maine to California, no light anywhere. I saw the highways of the north, Interstate 90, Interstate 80, the Pennsylvania Turnpike, transformed into expanses of stalled vehicles extended for hundreds of kilometers. Cars, trucks, semi-trucks, all blocked in the January freeze, all with their engines permanently burned out. People climbing out of their vehicles and starting to walk, not knowing where to go, without phones, without maps, in the middle of the cold. The northern cities, Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, were the most vulnerable. January, temperatures below zero, without heating, without gas, without wood in apartments built to depend completely on centralized systems. I saw entire families burning furniture in fireplaces to survive the night. I saw apartment buildings where people died in their beds over the following days, not from violence, but from silent hypothermia. In the South, it was different, but equally devastating. The winter warmth protected from the cold, but the absence of running water was lethal in a different way. Stalled water pumps meant dry faucets, unusable bathrooms, no possibility of hygiene. In Texas, in Florida, in Georgia, I saw people despairing as they looked for water in rivers, lakes, neighbors' pools, any liquid at all. Airports had become refugee camps. Kennedy, O'Hare, LAX, Dallas, Fort Worth, all with thousands of stranded passengers arrived from all over the world or departing. Without flights, without news, without communications, airport facilities ran out of food and water within a day. People slept on terminal floors, used the restrooms as long as there was water, then stopped using them. I saw pharmacists being raided by desperate people, not for painkillers, for insulin, for warfarin, for heart, blood pressure, and epilepsy medications. Medicines that without a cold chain or supply were a matter of life or death within days. I saw a Chicago pharmacy with shattered windows and completely empty shelves by the second day, and outside a line of people that kept arriving, not knowing that there was nothing left. The final toll of the third darkness exceeded 30 million dead. Most did not die from direct violence, but from the slow and inexorable consequences of the total collapse of modern civilization. Cold, thirst, hunger, lack of medical care. But Jesus also showed me something else. Look here, he said, pointing to a small community in Missouri. It was different from everything else I had seen. Homemade windmills grinding grain, wells with cast iron hand pumps, the kind that had not been used for decades, community gardens cultivated with hand tools, Workshops where people worked metal, wood, and leather with tools that required no electricity. A small field hospital with doctors and nurses who knew how to work without digital technology. A church at the center of it all, with its doors always open, serving as a coordination point for every community decision. When the third darkness arrived, that community did not collapse. It continued to live, not in a primitive way, in a conscious, connected, rooted way. They are not surviving, I said. No, Jesus said, they are living better than before because they have learned to depend on each other and on me instead of on a system that can fail. Then the vision closed and I found myself next to him again in that light. He looked into my eyes with an intensity I cannot describe. It was not severity. It was not judgment. It was something resembling the closest thing to absolute love imaginable, and then multiplied by something that has no name. Tell them to start now, he said. Water. Food that does not spoil. Physical cash. Because the ATM will not work. The card will not work. The phone will not work. A way to warm themselves without power. Medicines for at least 3 months. And neighbors. Real neighbors. Not contacts in address books. Because when systems fail, only what you have built with your hands and with the people next to you remains. Then he added something that I still hear now in the silence when I think about it. The darkness that is coming is not my punishment. It is my mercy. It is a way I call them home, the people that have lost their way. More people will find authentic faith in those days than in the previous 50 years combined. Those who cross those nights alongside others will see things that those who live in comfort cannot imagine. I felt that pull, that downward tug toward my body, toward the world. And before everything vanished, he said one last thing. You are not alone. You never have been. I woke up in the hospital with monitors beeping and my colleague Daniel standing next to the bed with red eyes. The doctor who examined me over the following days found no explanations for what the perimeters showed. I already knew why I returned. The story touched me deeply because deep down we all know it. There is something cracking in the world we have built around ourselves. This question I'm about to ask you is uncomfortable but necessary. If the lights went out tonight, what could you really count on? First, start today to build at least 1 week of real independence. Water, food, physical cash. Not out of fear, but out of responsibility. Second, choose a person close to you and talk to them about what you heard today. The most important preparation is that of relationships. Third, dedicate even just 5 minutes every day to be in silence with God. Because when systems collapse, only what you have cultivated in the unseen remains. I have decided to open up a private group, a place without filters and without judgment, for those who feel the world is moving towards something big and want to live through it with open eyes and solid faith. Inside, we will study prophecies, read world events through a spiritual lens, share personal experiences, pray together, and support each other in difficult times. It is not a group for the curious. It is a space for those who truly are awake and ready to walk together. If you feel these words are for you, write the words "I'm ready" in the comments right now. I'm waiting for you on the other side.